This is a continuation of my report on how HBO just announced the premiere dates for both Game of Thrones spin-offs that are coming in 2026. Night of the Seven Kingdoms is coming in January, then House of the Dragon Season 3 in June. I split this off from the main video both for length and because it's a bit more speculative, because in this I want to step back and look at HBO's overall schedule for 2026. How these two shows fit into that. Because this past year there was a bit of a dry spell middle of the year, and you don't want to be premiering a show after a gap in content. That you need to maintain momentum is a major point of both these videos I'm making. And the shorter answer is that things actually do look pretty good for 2026. HBO actually has a pretty stacked year ahead. But I want to explain to you how the schedule is looking that positive. Well, for starters, consider that shows are a lot shorter now in the streaming era. That before you had like 22, 24 episode shows in 2 seasons, like spring and fall, maybe 3 if you had a summer season for something, and that was pretty much it. But in the era of 6 to 8 episode TV shows, there are now about 6 seasons in a given calendar year. Then instead of spring, summer, fall, you have winter shows that are just 8 weeks from January to February. Then spring is March to April. Well, I say 6 seasons, it's really 5, because then you have the May to June dead zone. Because, as I've explained before, that the Emmys cutoff is the end of May, and then there's basketball finals, so they never premiere anything between mid-May through mid-June. So that's this 2-month off period where shows will be wrapping up from spring, but not before that. Then, last week of June, mid-June through August, you have the actual core summer season, which is 8 weeks, like 2 months. And then I don't have names to distinguish these. You have early fall, September to October, and then you have late fall, which is November to December. Like, just recently, Peacemaker Season 1, that started a bit early. It started the last week of August, but that was basically a September through October show, give or take, and there's going to be other stuff starting up in November. So that's how the season blocks work. What do we know about HBO's programming blocks in 2026? First half of the year through summer is actually pretty clear to us at this point, and logically it gets fuzzier the later we go in the year, that I'm less certain about fall, but I'm less worried about that because by that point House of the Dragon Season 3 will have already wrapped. And on top of that, they don't just have one show in each time block anymore. Like, that's the thing that HBO, the old HBO of like 15 years ago, kept saying, we're the best TV channel ever, and they only had content on Sunday nights. And they were trying to explain to them, you can't compete with Netflix if you only have 1 out of 7 days a week where you put out new shows. That's silly. That just in terms of that amount of content, you can't compete. You could go quality over quantity, but whatever. But they put out more than one show on a given Sunday night now. As far as I can tell, and we know the start of this better, the winter block of 2026, starting this coming January, will be A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and alongside it, Season 2 of The Pit, that medical drama that just did really well at the Emmys. Their second season is coming in January, which, gasp, a second TV season releasing within 12 months of the first season? That was one of the big reasons they made The Pit, was because it's relatively cheap to make and they can have a faster turnaround time on it. Actually getting back to annually released shows. Oh, it isn't a Sunday night show, though. It comes out midweek, but still roughly the same time period, so people aren't canceling their HBO subscriptions. That come for The Pit, stay for this new show, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, you might like it, as opposed to having this gap, of a fallow time between content. Also, they're actually having a third big show in that time period. It's a BBC co-production, actually, Industry. That's a co-production with BBC. I think Kit Harington's in it, but that's also another third thing they have that, okay, there's a show there. Then, after Dunk and Egg and The Pit, they have the spring block, which is specifically March-April, from beginning to finish. Well, in those same post-Emmys interviews where Casey Bloys said Dunk and Egg is January, House of the Dragon is June, he surprisingly said that they're trying to get Euphoria Season 3 to air this coming spring. That it's been delayed so much it's become a joke, but he pretty firmly said we're aiming for spring. So that's huge, and that's really the biggest highlight of this video. That, well, on top of that, I think the new live-action Green Lantern's DC Comics series will be coming in spring because they mentioned that it was like a lead-in to the Supergirl movie, which is coming in June. More on that later, but I think spring will be Euphoria and to a lesser extent Green Lanterns. So, while Dunk and Egg and House of the Dragon aren't this back-to-back double event, as I call it, it's still a really good situation for us because as opposed to, well, here's this, like the summer dead zone we just went through, where people cancel subscriptions and stuff, Season 3 of House of the Dragon will be a lead-out from Euphoria Season 3, which is right after Dunk and Egg. So I don't think we're going to have a problem with that in terms of the churn, as they call it, of turnover where people cancel their subscriptions, their monthly subscriptions, because they're not going annual. So that's pretty good for us, even though, like, after this past year, right after White Lotus, which was a winter show, and then The Last of Us Season 2, which was the spring show, this was a comparatively thin summer. I mean, yeah, they had Gilded Age, and that does have its fans, but in terms of big blockbusters, this was not a blockbuster summer for HBO. Peacemaker did decently for early fall, but now, well, actually, the big show I am really looking forward to is It, Welcome to Derry. That it's a prequel to the It Stephen King movie, but it's got the director of the movie, the Skarsgård actor back as Pennywise. It really feels like this is a direct tie-in to the movies. Good for Halloween season. I'm pretty excited about it. So that would run, I guess, October, November. I guess you could technically say Dunk and Egg is a lead out from a big show like that. Doesn't hurt. But why was there such a fallow time this past summer and fall? That there was like one good show on HBO at a time in fall. Peacemaker, then It, Welcome to Derry. And there weren't really that many big shows in summer at all. Ripple effects of the writer's strike in 2023. Well, it's the second wave because, the first wave, if you've been following, so how you already said things were affected. Well, that's the shows that paused filming because of the strike, because they couldn't do live rewrites. Case in point, Penguin. As they repeatedly say in the commentaries online, the podcast, Penguin, because it was filming in the United States, they couldn't even get actors to work on it, but they said, we didn't want to film this without rewrites. So they paused it. House of the Dragon was in the odd case where they film in Europe, so they said, well, the actors that work on it aren't in American labor unions. We can force them to film it with the finished rough draft scripts without rewrites, which you saw that hurt the show. But that's why a lot of shows like Penguin specifically were delayed from when they were originally supposed to come out. Those were ready-to-film shows they didn't want to do without live rewrites. This second ripple effect from the strike are things that weren't even written yet. And think about it. How long does it take to go from when you greenlight a show and go, I order a full season of scripts, to when it premieres? Well, you order it. It takes about a year to write, and it takes about a year to film and post-production. It takes about 2 years. What was exactly 2 years before summer-fall of 2025? The 2023 Writers Guild of America strike. It lasted from May through October of 23. So you're seeing the direct, that's why HBO didn't have a lot of shows this summer. It's thankfully the very last ripple effect of the writers' strike. And the major point I'm trying to get across to people is there are reasons these things happen, these patterns happen. Now that we are out of the rain shadow of the writers' strike, the final second wave of it, 2026 HBO's schedule is going to be stacked. Because no more mucking about with, the writer's strike prevented things. We're going to have Night of the Seven Kingdoms and The Pit and that industry show in their winter schedule. Spring will have goddamned Euphoria Season 3, probably Green Lanterns. Then the next airing cycle will be House of the Dragon Season 3 in summer. I'm not sure if there's any other things alongside it in summer, though, but like I said, what matters is getting up to bridging that gap. The spring is really what I'm focusing on, the gap between winter and summer, between the two shows we cover. Fall, I'm a little fuzzier on, though it doesn't really matter because we're up to that point, but think about it. There's a 4-month gap between the end of Dunk and Egg 1 and the start of House of the Dragon 3. House of the Dragon 3 will then probably finish first week of August. Dunk and Egg Season 2 is coming next January of 2027. So there will in turn only be a 5-month gap between those. Like, by the time House of the Dragon is wrapping up in August, like, within a matter of weeks, a month or two, New York Comic Con, again, they'll probably put out a trailer for Season 2 of Dunk and Egg. We're not going to have as long of a gap between news cycles anymore, ever again. It might be a little thin for HBO fall of 26, I'm not really sure, because they have new shows in development that we don't know how they'll do, but, I mean, off the top of my head, a lot of shows that just came out that won't have their next season for a full 2 years. I mean, not coming back until 27 are White Lotus, The Last of Us, The Next True Detective, Gilded Age, and they just announced that big-budget Harry Potter remake that, for good or ill, they're making a Harry Potter remake. That was officially pushed back to 2027. So what else would they have by fall? I'm not really sure, but what matters is House of the Dragon Season 3 not getting cut off at the knees due to lack of a good lead-in. Their lead-in will be Euphoria Season 3. Good news is just, it was such a good thing this past year that when we had Penguin leading into Dune Prophecy, that there were 2 really good shows back-to-back. Speaking of which, that before Dunk and Egg Season 2 in winter of 27, I'm not sure what comes. There's 2 seasons, remember, early fall and late fall. I have no idea what's coming early fall, September to October of 26, but they will have another big show coming back November to December when they have Dune Prophecy Season 2, which we were all surprised how good that was. We don't exactly get a lot of new Dune content, but it was well above our expectations. So just loosely, this is the schedule we're looking at, and if I don't know a lot about their fall schedule now, well, it's far away. I mean, we'll know more by April of 26 what's coming in fall, but I'm more worried about Season 3 hitting the ground running by having a good lead-in, which it does. That right now we're getting hurt. I wonder how much Peacemaker was hurt by not having a good summer lead-in. In contrast, albeit Welcome to Derry might boost Dunk and Egg, it's also just its newness that there's going to be a big promotional blitz for it. And there'll be other shows. I mean, we know Targaryen Conquest, they just recently, a month ago, Mattson Tomlin said, I'm still working on that. We're not in the heady days of when House of the Dragon Season 1 was a hit, and we thought, oh, we can just have a whole cinematic universe, but then Warner Discovery had money problems. Then they contracted, and we were planning, oh, we're going to have like 3 shows a year. I'm trying to focus on what we do know at this point, but things do look positive. In terms of at least near term, and again, it's not going to be oversaturation, it's just we need to restart things for a bit. Dunk and Egg Season 1, gap of only 4 months, shortest gap we've ever had because Game of Thrones at its height only had gaps of 9 months between seasons 1 to 6. 4-month gap, House of the Dragon 3, 5-month gap, Dunk and Egg. Like, we usually take a month to finish talking about things, so by the end of August we'll be done recapping House of the Dragon Season 3, and then like a month after that, September will be a fallow time. Start of that October, we get Dunk and Egg Season 2 trailers, and the cycle begins again. So this might be the final time we have a year-long gap like this without content, because they're making multiple projects. Targaryen Conquest, Nymeria, they might not have given up on yet, I'm not really sure, I talked about this in other videos. The movie, which is in early stages, but I'm pretty sure is Robert's Rebellion, but that's on a scale of years, they're planning ahead. Things are looking like we will never have this slow of a news cycle again, and just how much it hammered the YouTube community analyzing everything. One other thought, though, in terms of just building momentum, I mentioned this, that House of the Dragon Season 3 premieres in late June of 26. And as I said, a big Warner Brothers movie is also coming out in June. Supergirl, starring Millie Alcock. Same month as the Season 3 premiere, like within a week or two of each other. So summer of 26 will be the summer of Rhaenyras. Mutually reinforcing publicity. Looking forward to it, that we are back